Hi primary teachers, welcome to Best Practices Weekly. I've been reading an article this week called Mastering Fact Fluency, Are They Game? And it talks about best practices for developmental phases of math fact fluency. So today we'll look at those and we'll talk about how we can improve these math fluencies in our primary students. Mastering Fact Fluency, Are They Game? Can be found in the September 2013 edition of Teaching Children Mathematics. The author of this article is a second grade math teacher, and she noticed that her students were struggling with something I think we all in primary notice that our students struggle with, and that is basic fact fluency. So she developed some fact fluency games that she also sent home in a take-home binder. She tracked students' use of the games, and she taught students how to talk about what strategy they were using to solve addition and subtraction problems. One of the best practices I learned about this in this article are the developmental phases of fact fluency. So all students start out with counting strategies. They're counting on their fingers, they might be counting objects, but they're counting on or counting back to add and subtract. And then students, once they have a good handle on that, can move on to the next phase, which is reasoning strategies. And with reasoning strategies, they can use what they know about math to help solve unknown problems. So they might be able to say, well, I know that 5 plus 5 equals 10, and if I take one away from one 5 and give it to another, I have 6 and 4, so 6 plus 4 equals 10 as well. And once students have mastered reasoning strategies where they can easily take numbers apart and put them back together, they move on to mastery. And that's the automaticity stage of math, where they know math facts and they're at the tip of their fingertips at all times. So one of the things that this teacher did was she taught students about these developmental phases, that it was okay to start off with using your fingers, but eventually we want you to be able to use what you know about math facts to solve problems that you don't know. That's putting together and taking apart numbers. And then eventually we want you to reach the stage of mastery where it's just something automatic that you know. And teaching students about these phases also helps them talk about what strategies they are using, so it keeps them thinking about math. The way that this second grade teacher approached fact fluency games was that she would make sure that she modeled the games in the classroom, and modeling included talking about the strategies that students were using to add and subtract. She would model that for them, she would watch them talk to each other, and encourage a lot of math discourse or math talk. Then students would take home a binder every Monday, and in the binder were fact fluency games that they had already learned how to play in class, along with a log to record which games they played at home and how long they were playing them. They brought the take-home binders back to her once a week. Her turn-in day was Monday. She checked the logs and calculated the time. There was a class graph with how much time they had played, and she changed out the logs in the games on a weekly basis. Here are some helpful things to remember if we are going to incorporate the best practice of developmental strategies of fluency and fluency games in our classrooms. First, we'll want to remember that math talk is essential, that we have to model that for our students because that's not something that comes naturally, thinking about numbers and talking about numbers and how we're thinking about adding and subtracting. And so we'll want to model that, but also give them lots of chance to practice that in school with your guidance before we can expect them to do that at home. And then keep in mind that you want to choose fluency games that you can easily switch up. For instance, this teacher used a game called Turn Over 10, which is a lot like memory. They had to turn over 2 cards that equaled 10. Well, once students had mastered how to get to 10 in all different ways, she could change it up and give them a different sum. Turn over 20, turn over 15, so that the games were easy for her to change up so she wasn't constantly searching and looking for new resources. So tying these best practices into Common Core is very easy because the Common Core standards actually spell out specific math fluency standards for each grade level. Our kindergarten friends, we're looking for them to develop fluency that is rate and accuracy and speed in adding and subtracting to 5. First grade, adding and subtracting to 10. Second grade, adding and subtracting very quickly within 20, and then also using those math facts to add and subtract quickly within 100. I love the idea of the take-home binder and the log, so you could actually track the data of the students who practice more and see if their fact fluency is developed more quickly than those who are not, or if they get to the mastery level, or if they just stay on the 2 developmental phases above. So I hope that you'll go back and try these in your classroom, try the take-home binders, get parents involved in this, and come back and let us at Best Practices Weekly know how this is working out for you. Thanks for joining us.